Okay, let's unpack this. What if the reason you haven't gotten that promotion, or, to take it to the extreme, the reason you got caught in a literal hurricane has absolutely nothing to do with luck,
Right.
and everything to do with the metaphorical, like, soil inside your own mind?
Yeah, it's a pretty radical proposition. I mean, you are essentially asking if the universe operates on this flawless zero exception law of attraction.
Exactly.
A system where we aren't just participants in our lives, but we're the actual environments that summon our reality.
Yeah. And that is exactly what we are exploring today in this deep dive. We're looking at a translated 2019 essay by an author named Xu Feng.
Hmm?
It is titled, What Kind of Environment Attracts What Kind of Creatures? And our mission for you today is to trace this truly fascinating philosophical journey.
And what makes this text so fascinating to analyze is its structure. I mean, it does not start with lofty metaphysics at all.
No, not at all.
It begins with something as mundane as literal lawn care. It reads almost like a frustrated diary entry about yard work.
Yeah.
But from that very grounded starting point, it just escalates into this comprehensive theory about human existence, why disasters happen, and, well, why we might or might not ever encounter literal gods.
So let's start in the dirt, like the literal dirt. The author is describing the physical grounds at a place called Lifechanyuan's International Family Headquarters over in Canada.
Right.
And just for context, Lifechanyuan is a specific spiritual and philosophical community.
Yes. And Zhuifeng lays out this chronological progression of his yard work to establish his foundational premise. So he describes the property in 2017.
Okay.
There are these massive front and backyards, each over 2,600 square meters.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, really big. But they're completely neglected, like overgrown, covered in high thatch, debris, just a total mess. And he notes a very specific glaring absence. 0 birds.
Wait, really? None?
None. Absolutely no wildlife is visiting this massive plot of land.
So it is basically just dead space, ecologically speaking, like a void.
Precisely. So moving into 2018, they attempt to reclaim it, but they only have this small lawnmower.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's a half measure. The small mower physically cannot handle the heavy thatch in the massive backyard, so they just abandon that half of the project entirely.
That makes sense.
Right. So the backyard remains overgrown, and consequently still 0 birds go back there. However, they do manage to clear the front yard to a decent degree.
Okay.
And the response is immediate but highly localized. Several Canadian geese and crows are suddenly attracted to the front yard.
So we have a direct, undeniable cause and effect here. You change the physical space and you change the physical visitors. But 2019 is where the real shift happens, right?
Yes, so in 2019, the author finally invests in a large lawnmower. He clears both the front and the backyards completely, turning these overgrown weed beds into lush, green, manicured lawns.
Nice.
And the ecosystem doesn't just respond this time, it absolutely explodes.
Right. The text describes hummingbirds showing up in the spring, which, they hadn't seen before at all. Up to 70 crows start foraging on the lawn all at once.
There's a huge difference.
Yeah. And in the spring and summer, a dozen Canada geese hang out in the front yard. And by autumn, those exact same geese shift over and are leisurely foraging in the backyard.
And this is the crucial analytical moment for the author.
Yeah.
I mean, he is watching these geese migrate from the front to the back of his property, and he realizes, I didn't trap these birds.
Right.
I didn't coerce them. I didn't, put out a net. All I did was change the environment, and the environment dictated exactly what arrived.
Which, on a biological level makes complete sense. It's like setting up the perfect bird feeder, but on an architectural scale. If you build the habitat, the creatures that rely on that habitat will inevitably find it.
Exactly.
And the text offers another example of this to really hammer the point home, this time at a location in China.
Yes, the former third branch of Lifechanyuan, which was located in a valley. The author explains that the Chanyuan Celestials, which is the term used for the members of this community, they spent an entire year doing intense environmental renovation.
Wow.
They completely transformed this valley. And the result was that it became filled with chirping birds that actually settled down year-round. They planted persimmon trees, ate most of the fruit themselves, but they deliberately left the rest on the branches specifically for the birds.
Okay, but this is the part of the story where I have to push back a little.
Sure.
Because they also planted acres of wheat. And the birds, acting exactly like birds,
Right.
come in and absolutely decimate the wheat. They eat all of it.
They did, yeah.
And the people in the community naturally start complaining, asking how to stop the birds from ruining the harvest. And the author essentially shrugs and says, it did not matter who ate it. let the birds eat it. Wait, practically speaking, how does a community survive if they just let the local wildlife eat their entire harvest? Like, that sounds beautifully poetic, but functionally disastrous for a group of people trying to eat.
Well, it is functionally disastrous if your priority is human convenience or, agricultural yield. But that is exactly the point the author is trying to make.
Oh, I see.
It highlights a total radical surrender to the ecosystem they created. The author's logic is, we built a paradise for birds. We cultivated an environment that screams infinite food. We cannot be angry when the birds act according to the environment we provided for them.
It is like putting out a massive trough of sunflower seeds and then getting furious when the blue jays show up. You asked for that.
Exactly. But this gardening anecdote is merely the launch pad.
Right. So what does this all mean? This is a lovely gardening anecdote, but how does this connect to the deep dive mission we promised the listener?
This is where Swifting makes a massive philosophical pivot. He doesn't view these landscaping results as just a neat trick of local ecology. He views them as a profound revelation of a universal, inescapable physics.
A universal law.
Yes.
Hmm.
He takes this physical cause and effect and extracts what he believes to be an absolute law. The type of environment completely determines the kind of creature attracted to it. Zero exceptions.
Okay, so he's scaling it up from lawns to, like, everything. And let's look at how he builds this argument.
So he starts by listing undeniable ecological pairings to build a rhythm of agreement with the reader. He writes, mountains attract tigers, grasslands attract wolves, jungles attract lions and leopards, a stagnant pool attracts crocodiles, wetlands attract migratory birds, and the Gobi Desert attracts lizards.
Right, none of which is controversial. I mean, it is basically 7th grade biology. A crocodile isn't going to thrive in the Gobi Desert, so it doesn't migrate there. It seeks out the swamp. You read that and you nod along.
That is the rhetorical strategy. He gets you nodding. Yes, crocodiles like swamps. But then he gently pushes the boundary. He expands the scale from animal habitats to macro weather patterns.
Oh, weather.
Yeah. He asserts that green mountains and blue waters attract good, smooth weather, while poor, barren mountains and stale waters attract violent storms.
Okay, that is blurring the line a bit between ecology and meteorology. We are stepping away from strict biology, though I suppose you could still follow the logic if you think about how, forests influence microclimates and rainfall.
Sure, but he doesn't stop there. He immediately applies this same law to human sociology. He claims that bad emperors attract treacherous villains, wise emperors attract upright ministers.
Wow.
Brothels attract whore masters. Galleries attract artists. Casinos attract gamblers. Battlefields attract soldiers.
Ah, I see what he is doing. He is taking us from the undeniable, like, grasslands and wolves, and sliding us seamlessly into social and political spaces. Sure, this makes logical sense. It's basic ecology and sociology. If you build a casino, gamblers will show up. The environment demands the inhabitant. But the author doesn't stop at physical spaces, do they?
No, he doesn't. What's fascinating here is how the author uses these undeniable physical and sociological truths to build an unshakable foundation for his next, far more abstract leap.
Right, because once you accept the premise that the environment summons the creature, you're locked in.
Exactly. You are already primed to accept the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
And that abstract leap is where things get truly metaphysical. Because he asserts that just as there are natural physical environments like forests or casinos, there are also spiritual environments.
So our internal state is a landscape.
Yes, and the exact same universal rules apply to that internal landscape.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you have growing in your mind and your soul is going to dictate exactly what kind of spiritual entities come to visit.
Wow.
The text uses a very stark, visceral contrast here. He says if your spiritual environment is like a beautiful garden of flowers, it will attract bees and butterflies.
Okay, love it.
But if your spiritual environment is like, and this is a direct translation from the text, stinky shit, it is going to attract flies.
Well, he's not mincing words there.
Not at all.
And to understand the mechanics of this, he applies it directly to the concept of soul possession, doesn't he? Which he explicitly states is a real, literal phenomenon among people.
Right, he creates this detailed hierarchy of spiritual possession based entirely on the internal landscape of the person involved.
How does that work?
He outlines how the frequency of your thoughts acts as a magnet. So if you are someone who deliberately mystifies things, creating confusion and shadows, you're going to attract ghosts or monsters.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah, and if you are constantly frantically talking about spirits and deities, that chaotic energy attracts evil spirits.
But if you move up the hierarchy, if you clean up that internal space, the visitors change, right? If your spiritual environment is pure, he says you attract angels and bodhisattvas. And just for context for you listening, bodhisattvas are essentially enlightened beings in Buddhist tradition who delay their own nirvana to help humanity.
Hmm.
And at the absolute pinnacle, if your spiritual environment is extraordinary and utterly spotless, you will be possessed by gods.
The author treats this not as a religious reward, but as a mechanical certainty, just like the geese in the lawnmower.
Trying to visualize how this actually works mechanically, it reminds me of a modern analogy. It's like your mind is an open Wi-Fi network or a Bluetooth speaker.
Oh, I like that.
Right. The kind of signal you broadcast, the exact security and frequency of your network, determines exactly which devices are allowed to pair with it.
That makes total sense.
If you are broadcasting an unencrypted, chaotic signal on the darkest parts of the web, you get malware. It is inevitable. But if you broadcast a highly secure, pristine signal, only pristine authorized devices can connect.
That is an excellent way to conceptualize what Sufeng is arguing. You are a beacon, but you aren't just sending a message into the void. You are creating a digital, or in this case, spiritual habitat.
Right.
And whatever is flying around in the spiritual ether that matches your specific frequency will inevitably dock there. It is entirely out of your control once the environment is set. The geese will find the grass. The malware will find the open network.
Which is a beautiful, comforting thought if we are talking about angels and spotless minds.
Yeah.
But if we apply that exact same Wi-Fi analogy, that strict law of attraction, to something completely devastating in the physical world.
The implications are actually quite dark.
Extremely dark. Because if our internal environment guarantees the arrival of matching spiritual beings, what does that mean for the actual physical events we experience in life?
Right. Bad things happen to everyone. Earthquakes happen.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. And I need to take a quick second to explicitly clarify something for you listening.
Yeah.
We are absolutely not endorsing this viewpoint, especially the politically charged, controversial idea that victims of natural disasters or plagues somehow brought it upon themselves spiritually. We are simply analyzing the author's philosophical framework here.
Yes, that is a crucial distinction, because according to this text, bad things do not just randomly happen.
Right.
The author makes the definitive claim that natural disasters, and he specifically lists earthquakes, volcanoes, tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, plagues, and fires, as well as societal turmoil, they occur for one specific reason.
And that reason is?
They happen because there is something wrong with people's spiritual environments in those places.
It is a radically harsh worldview. I mean, this completely strips away the concept of randomness or bad luck from the human experience, placing 100% of the burden of reality on the individual's internal state.
It is a massive pill to swallow. But to the author, the logic of the lawnmower must scale infinitely, or it isn't a universal law. If the clean lawn attracts the geese, the spiritual rod of a region must attract the hurricane. He views it as a flawless mathematical equation of cause and effect. The hurricane is just the ultimate flock of crows arriving to feed on a neglected lawn.
That is just wow. And he scales this logic all the way down to personal, everyday misfortune too, doesn't he?
He does. On an individual level, the text asserts that if you encounter villains, if you are bullied, if you suffer insults, if you even just have to look at ugly scenery or experience general misfortunes, it is caused entirely by your own spiritual environment.
So it is your internal state that summoned the bully.
Yes.
See, this is where I really struggle with this philosophy. If you get sick, it's your fault. If someone wrongs you, it's your fault. That feels incredibly reductive and, frankly, exhausting.
It is undoubtedly a heavy burden, but it raises a fascinating question about why someone would adopt this worldview.
What do you mean?
Because while it sounds incredibly harsh to blame yourself for being bullied, it simultaneously offers an ultimate extreme form of control.
Oh, I see.
If nothing is random, if everything is an exact, mathematically precise reflection of your internal garden, then you have the ultimate power to alter your reality. You are never a victim of circumstance.
You are simply a gardener who hasn't pulled the weeds yet.
Exactly. If you can fix the soil, you can banish the hurricane. It trades the terror of randomness for the heavy burden of total responsibility.
Wow. Okay. That is a profound trade-off. It means you hold the remote control to the universe, but the buttons are buried deep inside your own subconscious, which naturally leads us to the practical application of all this.
Right.
If we are fully responsible for what our spiritual environment attracts, how does the author suggest we actually fix or cultivate it? How do we landscape the soul?
The author provides a very specific rule book. He outlines actionable steps to cultivate different results. For example, if you want to influence the macro environment, if you want to get smooth weather from nature, he says you must love nature and cherish life.
Okay, cause and effect. A deep reverence for life translates into a calm atmosphere.
Exactly. And if you want a safe and smooth personal life, the text instructs that you must have kind thoughts, you must actively avoid hurting others, and you must deliberately restrain your greed.
Restraining greed makes a lot of sense within his framework. Greed is inherently a chaotic, grasping internal environment, so naturally it would attract chaotic, grasping external events. What about human relationships?
To use his metaphorical language, if you want to attract butterflies and bees, you have to plant flowers. If you want birds, plant fruit trees.
Okay.
Translated into human interaction, if you want to attract noble, upright people into your life, you must practice deep gratitude. Gratitude is the literal fruit tree that attracts the noble person.
I actually find that quite beautiful, the idea of gratitude acting as a literal physical magnet for good people.
Yeah, it's a nice thought.
But let me ask you this, because the author brought up gods and bodhisattvas earlier and made a big point about them seeking out spotless minds. Why haven't I, or the average person listening to this right now, ever seen a god or a Buddha or a fairy?
That's a great question.
If they are out there constantly looking for habitats, scanning the Wi-Fi networks of humanity, why hasn't anyone seen them?
Well, Shuifeng has a very blunt, unsentimental answer to that. You haven't seen them because your mind's environment is simply not worthy.
Ouch. Okay.
Yeah, he doesn't pull punches. It goes back to his absolute refusal to compromise on this law of attraction.
Oh.
The text states clearly, absolutely beautiful things can only be enjoyed by absolutely beautiful lives.
Wow.
He uses a very stark comparison to drive this home. He says pigs belong in pig pens and regular people belong in the struggling world. The world of suffering, of stress and conflict is our natural habitat because our internal environment matches it perfectly.
So we are the crocodiles in the swamp. We can't see the pristine fairy world because we haven't built a fairy habitat. We've built a swamp.
Precisely. To interact with the divine, your spiritual environment must perfectly resonate with it. He notes a specific cultural metaphor here that carries a lot of weight. He mentions the Queen Mother of the West.
Oh, right.
In Chinese mythology, she is a deeply revered ancient goddess associated with ultimate life and immortality. And the author points out that the Queen Mother of the West would never invite random, spiritually uncultivated people to her immortal peach meeting.
Which is this legendary divine banquet, right?
Exactly right.
Right. It is a matter of fundamental resonance. It's not about being elitist. It's about the physics of purity.
Yeah.
You cannot bring a muddy, chaotic frequency into a perfectly pristine environment. You have to cultivate an internal state that naturally demands an invitation because it matches the frequency of the banquet.
Which leads directly to the ultimate thesis of this entire essay.
Right.
If this universal law of attraction is absolute, if the lawn dictates the geese and the soul dictates the gods, then the author argues that modern humanity has its priorities completely backward.
How so? What are we doing wrong?
The text concludes that a person's main task in life is absolutely not what we think it is. We are told to devote all our energy to studying, to working ourselves to the bone, to desperately forming social connections and networking.
Right, the endless hustle, climbing the corporate ladder, agonizing over exams, trying to force the external world to give us what we want.
Exactly. Zufeng argues that all of that is entirely secondary. It is a massive waste of time if the foundational soil is toxic. He believes your primary, overwhelming purpose in this life is entirely about creating beautiful, natural, and spiritual environments.
That's a huge shift in perspective.
It really is. The text ends with this poignant quote, "Once the roots are established, the way will grow therefrom."
Once the roots are established.
Yeah,
So
okay.
if we take it all the way back to that frustrated diary entry about the lawnmower, stop chasing the birds.
Right.
Stop running around your backyard with a net, exhausting yourself trying to catch a single hummingbird. Just mow the lawn, plant the grass, and the birds will arrive entirely on their own.
That's the core message.
Stop chasing the promotion, the perfect relationship, the stroke of good luck. Just fix your soil, and those things will naturally, inevitably inhabit your life.
Exactly. It is a radical call to shift our focus entirely inward. We spend our entire lives trying to manipulate the external world. Shofeng's philosophy asserts that the external world cannot be manipulated directly. It only ever responds to the environment you offer it.
What an incredible journey of an essay. I mean, we have gone from the mundane frustrations of mowing a 2,600 square meter yard in Canada to the deep, profound responsibility of landscaping our own souls just to secure an invite from the Queen Mother of the West.
Quite sweet.
It really is a total paradigm shift. It completely challenges how we view luck, disaster, and what we prioritize on a daily basis. Thank you so much for coming along for the ride with us on this deep dive.
It is definitely a text that forces you to hold up a mirror to your own internal landscape. And I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to ponder that builds on everything we've discussed today.
Okay, let's hear it.
If our internal soil really does dictate exactly what arrives in our life, what happens if you stop trying to attract what you think you want, like a specific job or relationship, and instead focus purely on making your internal environment radically beautiful? What completely unknown, unimaginable creature or opportunity might show up at your door?